You've hit play on the Screen Companion, where we'll help you pick something for movie night. Here we are. We're going to be talking about Rent from 2005. Max, could you give us a little summary of it?
So Rent is a story of two guys and their group of friends who all live in New York, and they're just trying to do something with their lives. They're like struggling artists or music writers or just people trying to make their mark on this earth. The problem is they can't pay their rent. So the story follows them and their struggles against their other friend who is their landlord, who isn't as chill as he used to be. Other stuff happens. Half of them have AIDS. They're all like from different cultural backgrounds, and there's a whole bunch of different song numbers too, clearly. In the end of it, half of them die.
I thought the original title for this movie probably was AIDS, and then they realized that wouldn't test well, so they changed it to Rent. The movie takes place, I think, in 1989, New York City.
Somewhere around there.
I guess there was a lot of AIDS back then. Why did you want to blind watch this? What was your initial reaction after watching it?
So I initially heard about it through another podcast where this guy just rips into it. And I'm thinking to myself, it can't be that bad, right?
I think you were listening to this show from the future.
He just went to this whole 10-minute spiel of the whole thing and what's wrong with it. And I even know South Park did a small parody of it. I was like, alright, I'll see what's up. They were spot on. Everyone has AIDS.
Does that bother you?
No, what bothers me more is like different characters and their motivations. Is this really what you want to do? Is this really what you think is best? And also, they're kind of scummy.
Maybe their motivation should have been paying their rent. Andrew, what political topics would you say, besides AIDS, are in this movie? And do you think musicals are an appropriate medium for heavy issues?
There are also gay rights issues in this movie. I believe it was Jesse L. Martin's character in this film who's gay philosophy professor. I don't know if it's gay philosophy as in the philosophy of the gay struggle or just he is gay and teaches philosophy. It does tackle the AIDS crisis. About half the people are HIV positive. It does tackle the idea of the man where, rent's due and, you've changed, man. What's going on, man? We're not gonna pay last year's rent. With serious social issues, this year's rent, next year's rent. It's hard to say if musicals are really the best way to tackle it. Because to me, musicals, in general, it's not every single musical out there, but there's a level of whimsy to them all. Just because they're singing and dancing. Even if there's no dancing, they're still singing. But people don't do that in their day-to-day lives. So it is a tough one where, if you're going to tackle something serious, peel back on the music a bit. At least for me. I didn't hate Rent or anything. Especially for a first-time musical person or someone who generally doesn't like them, I think this is a hard watch.
Pat, in what ways do you think the musical aspects of this movie, any examples of how it helped or hurt the social commentary?
Well, that's an interesting question there. I think, I'm going to disagree with Andrew. I think you can tell a compelling story. I mean, that's what film and theater are telling a compelling story. This particular version of the story that they're telling, while it does tackle difficult issues like HIV, it just tells it through that musical tone. Does it help or hurt? I don't know if it does either, honestly. Like I said, you're telling a compelling story. It just happens to be in a musical format. But I think you still feel the emotion. You still feel the characters and the issues that they're going through. Even if there's musical parts thrown into it, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing per se. I mean, it's one of the most successful musicals of all time.
Max, do you think the musical part of the film makes it better than if they just played it as a straight drama?
No, I don't feel like the music really added much more to it. It probably makes it better for stage in that sense, but for like an actual film, it probably would have been okay just going without the music.
I had a hard time reconciling the musical aspects of this movie with the activism part of it, if you will. With how many HIV positive people are in the cast of characters, I started to shake my head at a certain point as they're singing about some of their woes. Is this supposed to be like Philadelphia the musical? It doesn't compute well for me, and I think that stems from me being a non-musical guy. It's like a dog whistle. As soon as they start singing about their plight, I take it less seriously. Andrew, best musical sequence.
Honestly, and it's gonna sound bad, I mean this in the best possible way. The intro, Seasons of Love, is, to me, the best song in the movie.
How do you measure our years in daylight?
And it's just them standing on a stage singing it, but the song is great.
And as we keep talking about them, folks, keep in mind, we're talking about musicals on film. Not so much how we feel about musicals on stage. Pat, would you agree that musicals on the stage is a totally different animal from a film musical?
Yeah, when you go to the theater, I think the sound is more inclusive, and it's all production, obviously. Almost like seeing a movie in a movie theater versus seeing a stage production in a theater versus watching it at home. It's going to be a better experience for you if you're in person. And I think Rent probably would be a better stage experience to go see that in the theater live. That being said, I wasn't terribly opposed to the movie itself.
Going back to that initial song, it's like, okay, I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, you're showing me a stage, and I'm just reminded that I would rather see this live at a theater, and instead I'm watching a concert film because you're just filming a stage. It's not the best adaptation, I feel like.
That's a valid comparison for Rent, because it is just a scene where they're on stage singing.
Max, how about your favorite musical sequence?
The only one I could tolerate was, the first one. Everything else after that, it was pretty annoying.
Oh, God.
I was paying attention to these people's plight, and not that I didn't care about it, but I was more annoyed by how they all had these problems that could have just been solved by talking.
Someone to live for, unafraid to say I love you.
If you just had the courage, like, I have AIDS too. Oh, so we can be together, okay.
I can't say I have a favorite sequence, but I did enjoy the seamless way the musical numbers were integrated into it. Maybe because there's a song every scene and the cast is constantly singing their dialogue, but the music felt very natural to the world they were depicting. Moving into the criticisms portion, please, fellas, allow me to have the first crack at this. I wasn't digging the singing, because I'm in that musical hater club, let's remember, but I didn't feel justified in bailing on this movie until I was an hour in, just after the Jesse L. Martin Santa Fe bit in the subway, and I realized I couldn't tell what the story was about. Where are we in the script? Who wants what? What's the conflict? Nearly halfway in, a dozen songs later, and nothing's happened. I couldn't justify it if, in fact, it was the movie setting up a story-heavy second hour. It's like the first act needs to end at some point, and taking an hour to do that is criminal. Max, because this was your pick, would you like to have first rebuttal?
There is going to be no rebuttal from my end. I am not going to fight you on how terrible everything was.
I'll get back to you in a moment. Pat, criticisms for this?
I'm inclined to agree with you a little bit. The scene for me that did it was during the protest scene, Idina Menzel on stage. She was singing, and I wasn't 100% sure what the protest was about, what point she was trying to make. That was the part where I was kind of lost in the movie a little bit. I did finish the film, and I watched all the way through, and I thought overall it was quite good. But that was definitely the part where I was confused and lost. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, I'm not sure, but like I was really confused as to what they were protesting at that moment.
And Andrew, being the biggest musical fan out of tonight's panel, did you ever feel like the plot was a bit aimless? And did the musical numbers make up for that for you?
Aimless, yes. Musical numbers make up for it. Not really. And it's gonna sound weird for musicals, but I'm not the biggest fan of like the big show tune style numbers, which is what I felt these were. You know, you had a gripe with the Santa Fe number, which, that's all well and good. I like the song, but there's always going to be at least one song in every musical where you can completely cut it and it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference to the movie. And that's definitely the one. So, the plot does meander. It's a lot of different characters. They all have their own things going on. It's jumbled, for sure, and I don't know if the stage play is tighter, if it's just the adaptation that was done. You know, I hate to be this guy. I don't know when the original writer for Rent passed away, but he didn't write his own adaptation, so I do wonder if Jonathan Larson wrote it, his own film version, would it have been better? But we'll never know.
He passed away before it ever got to be on Broadway. They'd been workshopping it for a few years and working through it, but he passed away before he got to see it premiere.
Oh, there you go. That's even sadder.
Yeah.
Clearly I didn't watch Tick, Tick, Boom or Look This Man Up, but it does meander. In terms of entry-level musicals, this is not one of them.
Become an active listener by joining the Screen Companion. Subscribe on YouTube, hit us up on X, and our Facebook group. Let us know your favorite episodes and what topics or films we should tackle next. Further support the host by buying his novel, Self-Recognition, a futuristic detective story, available on Amazon in print and digital formats. Please check in every month, as there will be bonus episodes between now and Season 7, premiering in September 2026. So Max, since you kicked this whole thing off by subjecting my sweet, sweet virginal eyes to this movie, what criticisms do you have for it at the end of the day?
Let's start with the protest. The protest was, we don't want them to kick out the homeless people from that empty lot that they made Tent City in. And that's what led to the riot. Did the homeless people end up staying there? They never completed that story. Also, why am I supposed to really like some of these other characters? Okay, so there's a struggling artist, like the filmmaker guy. There's a guy who can't write a song. He's been working at it for over a year. There is the filmmaker's girlfriend who ended up becoming a lesbian, who looks like she swings at any skirt she can see. I don't really have anything against the philosophy guy until I guess he decides, okay, it's fine to start hacking into ATMs, steal money out of it. I don't really see any way for me to feel for any of these characters and say, you know what you're doing is for the right reasons. You keep doing it. You keep not paying that rent. You're contributing to society. None of them contributed anything, from my perspective.
Yeah, man, I found it a bit off-putting early in the movie when there's that big number, and it seems to be a block party where they're talking about, we're not going to pay our rent last year, we're not going to pay rent this year, we're not going to pay next year's rent. That's a bold statement to be making so early in a movie. Not that maybe you can't get me to agree with that protest. Show me some more character stuff and some reasoning behind it before you start saying that and lighting sheets of paper on fire and throwing them down to the street. Pat, for this movie, were there any characters that you felt were one-dimensional and perhaps their character just amounted to them being an addict or having AIDS or etc.?
Honestly, I was going to say Mimi's character, she didn't have HIV or AIDS, but she was one-dimensional in the fact that, yeah, she was just kind of chasing any skirt that she could get. I thought that was narrow for her character. I didn't see a lot of depth there.
I was doing a little back and forth with Max leading up to this episode, and I joked that basically being the Neanderthal that I am and not being able to fully appreciate musicals, it could at least get me interested on some basic instinctual level if Rosario Dawson showed a little bit of skin. To find out that her character works at a strip club, I was like, oh my god, my dream's coming true. And this is the only thing that might make me regret not finishing the movie, guys. In the second half, does she show any body parts?
I'm going to save you the trouble. No.
Doesn't Idina Menzel moon someone?
It's not worth it.
It's not Rosario's ass. I'm with you, Frank. Rosario is perfection incarnate. It is disappointing.
And actually, I liked Rosario's acting and singing. I'm assuming that was her singing. If there had been less characters and maybe more time to develop her, I could be into it more than just trying to see her naked. So I do want to say that much. As we wrap up talking about this movie, let's do some TSC ratings. I'm just going to go category by category on a scale of 0 to 4, 2 being net positive. So starting with you, Andrew, the story.
I'm gonna give it a 1.
0.
Damn.
I'm going to say non-applicable because I didn't finish it. However, I think it deserves a 0 for spinning its wheels for an hour.
I'll give it a 2.5. I look at that as totally unrealistic. Refusing to pay rent, that just looks like deadbeat tenants to me. I've paid rent for years, and if you don't pay rent, you get evicted, so you kind of have to.
Mark,
What?
check out the door.
What the hell is that? Hey, there's a padlock on the door.
Hold on, hold this, honey. I saw this on television. Watch.
Baby, what you doing?
You'll see. Be careful now.
You're drunk.
No, I'm not.
That's my girl! Oh, damn.
Typical. He took all our stuff.
Mine, too. What a freaking sweetheart.
What do we do now?
Well, technically, now that you're inside, you're squatters. You can't be arrested, and Benny can't just throw you out on the street. It'll give you and Roger time to get some money together.
Acting, Andrew.
I'm going to give it a 2. I wanted to give it a 3 because I do think that there are good performances in the movie, but I'm going to give it 2.
Give it a 3. You have to look at that from, once again, they brought back pretty much most of the original stage crew for the film. I think Rosario Dawson was a new character, but pretty much all the other actors were from the original theatrical production, so I thought that was really neat.
I'll be nice. I'll give it a 3. It made me feel like these were New Yorkers, because I hated all of them. Just as much as I hate people from LA, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that is true.
I'll give the acting a 2. Production design.
I'll go like 3 or 3.5. I thought they did a really great job with that set. Really looks like a flat New York. I want to know how much the rent cost on something like that in 1989. And I'd love to see how much it costs today, because I can't imagine that it was affordable in 1989, let alone today for a starving artist.
I'd give it a solid 3 because it definitely sets up the mood, you know, the apartment and all that stuff. I feel like it was very well done in that sense.
Yeah, 3. I agree.
I wanted to give it a 3 because they do a really good job of making New York City look like a cesspool. But I'm going to give it a 2 because I wondered how much of this did they have to build and how much of it was, let's just shoot on that street corner with the bums and the filth.
How else are you going to give it that real New York feel, though?
I know, practically smear poo-poo on the lens.
I really hope you don't have New York listeners.
I have some New York State friends. I don't think they would mind me getting a few digs in on the city itself.
Okay, as long as they're not in the city.
Showmanship.
That too. It wasn't anything special, really, in that regard.
2.5. I gave them props for being the original theater cast. And I thought the opening number, I think you guys talked about it earlier, the opening number, Season of Love, was really good. But overall, I definitely felt like a stage performance forced to the big screen.
2.
2, yeah. And finally, the ending.
I would say 3.5. You got the focus on the AIDS epidemic, and then you have some characters dying as a result of that.
I didn't finish the second half, so non-applicable.
Just 1.
0. It was pretty dumb.
Take me for what I am.
You've reached the end of this episode of The Screen Companion. Thank you for listening.